jellyfish, weird types of jellyfish going through the water. And sometimes they even collide and merge with each other. This artwork here provoke fantasy to rise up, or to feel a little bit of magic. Science can't explain everything. I mean, we are just doing approximations and try to explain as good as we can, but of course reality is much broader than that. And also science, I mean, at least my science, physics doesn't touch on emotions. It at the same time projects you into the outer space, but also into the microspace in quantum mechanics. If you go to quantum or if you go to outer space, you immediately get into these humongous numbers, but you need lots of zeros, either behind the number or behind the comma before the number, to express your thoughts. And so it's kind of funny that here the optimization goes in different directions. Whereas a scientist would fight against all these little irregularities and would always producing exactly the same pattern. But here we would try to be precise, it would be boring, so nobody would want to look at it, yeah? Yeah, they interact here heavily with each other, and that's exactly what you would not like to have in a real EPR, quantum cryptography experiment. But that is exactly what makes this artwork here really beautiful. Science, of course, lives from getting rid of all the noise and all the imprecision and making it really dry and exact and error bars. And so art is the opposite. They want to be misunderstood because association with lots of other things is enriching art. You need something like art to connect it to emotions and human life and make it inspirational. I mean, it's already quite inspirational science, but this is a shortcut to the emotions and inspiration that are there in science. Yeah, it's perhaps enriching your experience in life. I mean, both science and art do it, and it's just another window which you shouldn't miss.
Okay, we have a bit of a, again, different situation here, which is great also to end, because this time we have both the scientists and the artists present. Well, one of the scientists, because you had also a colleague who was working together with the three of you in this project, Guillaume Schweicher. So welcome to Florian Schreck, who is a professor of experimental quantum physics at the University of Amsterdam, and to Dmitry and Evelina, Dmitry Gelfand and Evelina Domnitch, who are working together not only on this work, right, but you are working together on art science works dealing with physics, chemistry, and computer science since quite a while already. So we already heard that Florian is actually one of those scientists who is scientist in residence within the Studiotopia project, and we also heard a bit of by Raoul what the concept behind this is. So it showed, I would say, also in the video that you already gave quite a bit of thought as to these resonances in between art and science. It was really nice to hear you reflect on that. The downside is that because we really wanted to have your statements on this in the video, much of the things you said about the work itself now didn't make it in this short version, so maybe it's also good also for the audience to learn a bit more about the concept behind the work, also maybe explain the quite abstract, to me at least, abstract title, ER equals EPR. So now the question is, whom should I address? I guess we should address Dmitry and Evelina first, and Florian can add on if you think from your perspective of quantum physics there's something else you should elaborate on.
So the title refers to a theory. When Evelina and I had the extreme pleasure of a residency with the LIGO group at Caltech. That LIGO stands for Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. This was the group that first detected gravitational waves emanating from the collision of two black holes. And our residency was in 2016, and in 2017, this group received the Nobel Prize for this pivotal moment in the history of physics. And it was there at Caltech that we encountered Juan Maldacena, theoretical physicist, cosmologist, string theorist, who presented this radical idea that ER, which refers to Einstein-Rosen bridges, which were later known as wormholes, equals EPR, and that's Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen. That's another paper. These are two papers from 1935, which has to do with quantum entanglement. So perhaps wormholes are a manifestation of quantum entanglement, which is, of course, quite besides being a rather unorthodox take on the workings of the cosmos. It also happens to be a way towards combining the distant realms of relativity and quantum theory. And actually, at the end of his lecture, Professor Maldacena mentioned that perhaps some hydrodynamic models of this theory will emerge. And later that night, Evelina dreamt of this hydrodynamic model, and approximately a week later, we were already doing experiments in the Caltech swimming pool, having asked the swimmers to leave because they would disturb the experiment. And luckily, it was quite a success. And shortly thereafter, we were already starting to build the installation.
Were you literally dreaming of it?
I woke up and I saw it in my dream. And the interesting thing that Juan Maldacena, he showed a picture which was a cover of a Scientific American with an artist representation where there was some kind of a knot. So this wormhole was represented as a knot. And I found it I found this
ridiculous,
yeah, this cover. And what I dreamt was quite simple as this ring. And what is interesting that you do not see this wormhole, but these vortices are connected. The vortices, and
you see it in the projection.
And
however, if you look
in
theoretical
physics, even if you have a wormhole, what is a wormhole? It can connect distant realities, distant dimensions, distant worlds, but nonetheless you cannot send information over the wormhole. So somehow it exists and it doesn't exist, and it has this very ephemeral presence in our installation as well. So it's almost like a little strangeness in space-time, strangeness in topology. That's where the rotation of water happens.
So do you see your work as illustrating that theory? Is that one of the main aims of the work then?
Certainly not. We believe that a well-conceived, well-executed scientific experiment is a work of art. We don't. We actually, unlike perhaps many other standpoints, Evelina and I went into this domain over 20 years ago because we don't find any significant differences. We mainly see quite some parallels, but we never engage in illustration, and for that matter, we consider all of our work to exist in a realm of abstraction that cannot represent anything at all, that is open to any kind of interpretation. Yes, you can enter the room, and of course, given the background of that is alluded to by the title, you can go into cosmology and into this recent theory, but you can also view it purely from an aesthetic and perceptual standpoint.
Yeah.
I was a naive observer. I just entered this room knowing about this title, and you first get a feeling of awe just by the sound and the patterns on the ceiling, and you forget that it's actually called EPR, and you stand there for 15 minutes just looking at it, how does it work, and playing with it, before you again remember the title and then make the connections to the physics again. So it works.
So you have not been involved in the coming into being of this work, Florian?
No.
No. So because your scientist residency is rather just starting.
Yes, right.
So what do you both sides hope of getting from that cooperation from your residency?
For me it's like this. I was always interested in art, but more as a passive observer, going to contemporary art exhibitions, or my family, they are all involved with art. But now I'm actively involved. I'm entering this world through you, with your help. So that's very interesting for me. It's just expanding my horizon. And we just started the journey of building an artwork. So I hope we will produce something beautiful, just as what you did before.
Yes, and we're working on an artwork that can unveil a little bit, bring to the scale of our senses the movement of light in space. So the
vorticity of light.
Yes.
So it is actually in many ways related. Well, we have a quite a fascination with vortices, and it's.
Yes, so it engages vortices, but created by single light waves. And to your question about theory and illustration of theory, we have to keep in mind that our theories and science, it's just games of our mind, approximations, that reality is so much bigger and broader. And of course, our fascination is with reality, but the way it corresponds with the working of our consciousness, with understanding, it's also great. And I like how in the video Florian says that, oh, if you try to make it always spin the same way, that would be boring. But no matter how you try, you would never succeed, exactly because of this. And the fact that you are caught in this process of cosmogony, the universe being created together with you in the moment, where you can make an analog of spinning black holes and observe it and think about quantum mechanics and some of the mathematics, yes, dividing by zero. And that's what happened when black holes, when the Einstein equation of general relativity was solved by the German scientist Schwarzschild, who was dying in the Russian-German front somewhere around between St. Petersburg and Moscow, and he wrote in 1915 a letter from the front to Albert Einstein. It was a few days apart from an opening of exhibition in St. Petersburg
Petrograd.
In Petrograd, yes. That was called 0.10. And the interesting thing that the name of the exhibition was spelled in numbers. So not as letters, 10 or 0. So yes, this is this fascinating quest, how these things can happen in parallel. The black square of Malevich, where he claimed he had reached
the zero of form.
And the solution of the equation of the general relativity that gave us the first model of a black hole, the Schwarzschild radius. And what is very interesting in the black holes and zero is this moment of singularity, where not only the laws of nature break down, but our understanding of these laws of mathematics sort of breaks down.
because actually around a black hole, it is actually space-time itself that is being warped. That just like around a liquid vortex, as in the installation, the actual fabric of the cosmos is being folded in upon itself.
If I hear you, I have to say, I feel that, well, you are the quantum physicists, you are also the historians of science and maybe the art historians, and also if I hear Florian talking, it seems that you rather feel the apprentice in this, in this interaction. So is that the case, or maybe to the two of you, what do you hope to get also from Florian? That what could you help with that is still something that you need to figure out?
Well, Florian's, he is such an accomplished scientist, and if I can tell you what his lab is working on, you will be so impressed, because he just created an atom laser, and he is building the most precise clock that will work with the help of an atom laser. So this is a multi-million-dollar projects of like the most pioneering research projects. So of course it's fantastic to have such an apprentice at our studio.
We have much to learn from our apprentice.
But I can also learn from you about the creativity and bouncing ideas, and yeah.
So there is nothing, Florian, you would say yes, but you didn't really, this is really something you should take into account from quantum physics, because that's an interesting theoretical angle that I think you missed up until now. Or
what Evelina and Dmitry have to take into account is precision and sometimes calculate before trying to do something, but we work on this together.
Yes, we're exactly working on it right now.
We need a lot of precision for what we're working on with Florian, indeed. Yeah.
That's interesting, because then in the end result, that was what you were fascinated by, that actually it's not about precision
it's
in
true.
This work, but in
but
the
you
process
have
sometimes
to
you
reach
might
a certain
need it.
level, otherwise it just doesn't work.
And I know that our curators also needed a lot of precision to take care of all the works here in the exhibitions, in the end, even if they don't stage that precision in the aesthetics, in the end, of course, these works need a lot of maintenance and a lot of very exact exactness in the creation.
Well, they're doing a fabulous job. We have rarely seen this piece in such a state after several months on display, and yeah, definitely. Big hats off to them.
They really appreciate hearing that, and that's maybe also the moment to get them on stage again. But first, maybe let's see if there is questions.
There's one new question just coming in. The work has been heavily influenced by science. Do you think art and artworks like ER equals ER EPR can also influence or inspire science in return?
Well, that
maybe Florian can
Florian.
answer this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think, of course, of how we could do things like this in ultra-cold atom experiments, my type of experiment. So vortices, and I mean, that has been done, of course, already, but if it hadn't, it would, of course, be the inspiration. Yeah. I think it's just putting you in a playful mindset, looking at this artwork or talking to artists, and that is something you need for science too.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry we already need to wrap up here, but we also don't want to make this too long, because we know that people, especially when listening from home, it's sometimes shouldn't get too long at least. So thanks.